We got
Wait,
the
wait,
it's
wait.
I've got the special jacket on, the licorice jacket.
Oh, you did.
So,
Special jacket.
so we talked about London Dry and how you don't really go into a bar and ask for a London Dry. So, London Dry gin found a bedfellow that was rather unexpected. I'm going to dial the clock back to the end of the 15th century. The conquistadores had made it all the way to Peru, and the wife of the Viceroy of Peru, the Spanish Viceroy of Peru, came down with a bout of malaria. She had brought it with her. Malaria doesn't belong in the Americas. It never existed in the Americas. It's a European, Asian and African disease. In Africa, the malaria you get will just kill you. It's potent. You ask somebody from, and it's a childhood illness, you ask somebody from West Africa if they've ever had malaria, it's like asking someone from New York if you've ever had the cold. However, in Europe, there was a different strain of malaria which could tolerate lower temperatures. And we don't think of malaria today as being a particularly European problem, but once upon a time it was a massive European problem. Whenever the plague hit London, for example, you were actually statistically better off staying in London than going out into the countryside in the Thames estuary, where you were more likely to die of malaria than you were to die of the plague inside London. It was chronic. It was bad in Holland, it was bad particularly in Italy. Malaria is an Italian word. It means bad air. And round the lower reaches of the Tiber Valley, around Rome, in the swamps, around the Vatican, it was particularly virulent. So much so that so many pilgrims coming to the Vatican for particular saints' days would die in huge swathes, particularly when the mosquitoes were emerging from their larval stage. So much so that the Pope in 685 changed the date of All Saints' Day from May to the 1st of November. He didn't know why, but people just tended not to die in November. We know why, because there's no mosquitoes in November. And if it wasn't for that, we'd be celebrating Halloween in May and not celebrating it in the 1st of October, All Saints Eve. So malaria was something that was an endemic problem in Europe, and effectively the Europeans brought it to the Americas. The British brought it to what is now the United States, the Spanish brought it to what is now South America. Both National Geographic and Nature magazine have both done studies that show that more than half of all people who have ever died have died of malaria. It is the greatest killer the world has ever known. It still to this day kills 1 million people a year, and there is no cure. It is an incurable disease. But there is a way of halting it by stopping the Plasmodium from reproducing, and that is quinine. And quinine is the natural resource of the cinchona, or cinchona bark, and that grows in Peru. So when the Contessa de Cinchona went into her fevers and all the rest of it, this local shaman who had no idea what was wrong with her went into the forest, cut down some cinchona bark, brewed it into tea and gave it to her, and her symptoms went away. She was effectively remissed from having the malarial attack. And the Spanish realised they had a gold mine. They had the cure, if you want, for malaria. If you take it before you get malaria, it prevents you from getting malaria. Once you've had malaria endemically, it can't stop you. But this was worth its weight in gold. So when you watch all these things like Pirates of the Caribbean, they weren't after doubloons and pieces of eight. They were after saplings of the cinchona tree, because the Spanish had a monopoly. You would not have been able to build European empires across the globe without having quinine. But there is a problem with quinine. It is horrible. It's bitter. I can give you some quinine in watered down, drink it, you'll bolt to the toilet to throw up. Your most natural poisons are bitter. And your bitter sense in your tongue is next to your gag reflex for a very good reason. It's the last opportunity you have to reject something before it enters your central nervous system. So quinine is a natural poison. In fact, it can, in overdose level, be worse for you than having malaria. So you've got to be very careful about how much you have. It was a failed German watchmaker in 18th century London who hit upon the idea of, rather than dissolving it into tea or making it into water, dissolve it into carbonated water. The carbonation will allow a smaller dosage of quinine, which was now created in powder form, and that body would absorb it and you would get your immunity. His name was Johann Schwepp, and he founded Schweppes. Now, he actually failed at that as well, but the company he founded was eventually given King's Warrant, and people think that the British Empire was built in cups of tea. It was not. It was built in the G&T, because you took your quinine tonic water, as it was called, and you mixed it with London dry gin. And so you have gin and tonic. And that allowed you to get the quinine into the administrators, particularly in India, and the burgeoning British Empire, to be able to get that immunity into the system. So the gin and tonic, which all these clubs, all these soldiers would drink, is always the G&T. And that is really the oldest gin drink that is out there. And it was really for a medicinal purpose. There was one other medicinal drink out there. One of the big problems of an expanding empire was scurvy on board ships. So you were entitled as an officer on board a ship to a shot of gin in the morning and a shot of gin in the evening. And it was watered down using lime juice. The lime juice provided you with the vitamin C that would prevent you from getting scurvy. And the man who introduced that was Admiral Gimlet. So the gimlet is your lime cocktail made from gin. However, you could be gypped, and the purser could dial down the gin element and up the watery lime juice concoction. So you had the right by King's regulations not to be gypped. There's only one alcohol by volume that you can accurately prove at sea without instrumentation. That's 57.3% alcohol by volume. That's Navy strength. What you do is you get a bowl of gunpowder, you pour in your gimlet, you then take a magnifying glass, and using the sun's rays, you try and ignite it. It will not ignite below 57.3% alcohol by volume. That is 100 degrees of proof. That is where that term comes from. Proof was introduced into the United States in 1838. Partly multiplied by 1.73 was too complicated for moonshiners in Kentucky, so in America you double it. 50% alcohol is 100 degrees of proof. In the UK we multiplied by 1.73 because that's the actual arithmetic required to get from Navy strength to that. So what we're going to do is finish this off by showing you where gin and tonics have gone. The two cheapest drinks, generally speaking, in an American bar is Jack and Coke and a G&T. And because they're using cheap G and cheap T. But in Spain, this is what drives it. There are very few cocktail bars in Spain. Everything is driven by the G&T. House-made tonics and so on. Use the big balloon glasses. These are Brockmans balloon glasses that we use in Spain. You put in ice cubes. You take your Brockmans. I'm going to eyeball this because I'm drinking this. So you put in a couple of ounces. Oh, those are Scottish ounces. We then take our tonic that we do prefer to use ourselves. It's Fever Tree. You then take the curly spoon. This is a Brockmans branded curly spoon. And you wonder why the spoon is curly. Well, it does help when you do Stirling cocktails, but one of the reasons is you pour the tonic down the spoon. And then as you get more theatrical, you can bend the spoon beyond the lip of the glass and it still comes down. That is why the spoon is curly. Because you need to retain the integrity of the bubbles. A gin and tonic that is flat is a terrible gin and tonic. So you retain the integrity of it by using the curly spoon. We then garnish with a flourish of grapefruit, because that brings out the beautiful citrus nature in our coriander, and for show purposes, some blueberries. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a Brockmans perfect serve. Thank you very much. Right, we're going to do the quiz part, but thank you very much for listening.